everybody. Vasi Vadaparty, Charlie O with you on Friday, August 27th, 2021. This is the Make the Money and Run podcast. We're here every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays, 3 Eastern, 12 Eastern, and 1 Eastern right now on Facebook and YouTube. Thanks to everybody on Facebook and YouTube Live as well. Hi, Phil. How are you? Nice of you to join in early with us. Download, subscribe, rate, and review anywhere you get your podcasts if you missed any of the live broadcasts. Also, today, social media, check them out by 6 Eastern every day for updates and picks for later games of the evening. All the games start in the evening tonight, so we're not going to do picks now, but make sure you check our social media out tonight. We'll get you all the latest information. You can email us at mtmarpodcast@gmail.com, Facebook and Instagram us, on Twitter at vpartysports, on Instagram as well at mtmar podcast. We also have a brand new Facebook group, Make the Money and Run Facebook group. So pass it on to everybody. Join the group. Put all your comments down there, good, bad, ugly, indifferent, all of it on there. We got NFL football in 2 weeks. We got college football starting tomorrow. We got Major League Baseball, the last 5 weekends of the regular season. All this brought to you by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino, Silicon Valley's oldest British restaurant and pub since 1981. Check them out at BritanniaArmsDeanza.com, 408-257-7262. NFL Sunday ticket, college football Saturday, all the soccer you can handle, all the adult beverages you want, all the good food, lunch and dinner, and on the weekends, the British breakfasts are outstanding as well. So check them out as well. Go online. They also cater as well, too. Charlie, how are you?
Hey, listen, I'm good. And speaking of Premier League soccer, Cristiano Ronaldo, all the news coming out, evidently on the move. Everybody wanting to spend a ton of euros on a guy who is obviously over the hill. I mean, I think his knees are as bad as mine, but everybody seems to want to spend money. So Ronaldo going to bring some club a lot of money, and evidently he's going to continue to make a bunch of money. I think it's mostly because they want his jersey sales. I'm not sure.
It's still a popular jersey sale. There's no doubt about it. You go into Britannia Arms. I think there's a few of his jerseys sitting up there on the wall as well, too. All right, let's start out with college football. Hang on, excuse me. Go ahead.
Listen, college football.
College football, right? Yeah, college football. Can't believe it's
zero. What's week zero? Come on, there is no week zero. It's week one. But
all the mathematicians think there is a week zero because week zero counts. So that's a different story for another day. But college football starts tomorrow. 5 games, 4 games on the board. 5 games, including our beloved San Jose State Spartans, who take on, I believe it is Southern Utah. They're taking on tomorrow night. Southern Utah tomorrow night. So Brent Brennan coming off the Mountain West Championship will be there tomorrow night. Saturday night at Spartan Stadium in San Jose. I'm not sure if I'll be there or not, but good luck to our alma mater, San Jose State. They're not on the board yet. The following week they will be because their next game will be against USC, who we'll talk about in the Power 5 Conference come next week. Here are the games for tomorrow, Charlie. Nebraska, Illinois, a Big Ten matchup right off the bat. UCLA, Hawaii, UTEP, and New Mexico State. And then Fresno State and Connecticut are the other 4 games that go on. Here are the lines for them. Nebraska 7 at Illinois, 54.5. Shout out to Dan Lust from Upper State New York, adopting Nebraska as his college football team. UCLA 17.5 against Hawaii. A lot of people think UCLA is going to be really good this year and contend with USC and Oregon. Hawaii in the Mountain West. I'm not sure about Hawaii right now. We'll have to figure out what they do defensively in order to have an idea of them tomorrow. UTEP 10 at New Mexico State. New Mexico State traditionally, we've known them for a long time, traditionally do not have a very good football team. 59 the total. If UTEP's favored by 10 on the road, probably New Mexico State's not very good. And then Fresno State in the Mountain West as well. 27.5 points over Connecticut. Connecticut must not have anybody for the lines makers to come up with them, and 63 the total. All right, Charlie, early takes on the NCAA.
First of all, it's not the Big Ten game in between Nebraska and Illinois. Sorry, Dan. It is the Little Five because neither one of these teams figure out in the top part of the Big Ten. Nebraska has just been, I'm sorry, Dan, but they have just been horrible. This program is in such bad need of complete overhaul. As a matter of fact, frankly, this program has not thrived going to the Big Ten. If the Big 12 wants to reinvigorate itself, and I think they do, I think they want to repack. the first thing that I would do is I would go to Lincoln. I would lay myself down prostrate in front of the athletic director and the president, and I would say, what do we have to do to bring Nebraska back into the fold? Because the Big 12 has suffered and Nebraska has suffered since they left that conference. So anyway, I digress. Illinois is terrible. I think Nebraska is probably improved. I think that line's probably okay, but neither one of these teams are going to fight for the championship. But I like the fact that there's a conference game in week 0. That's nice. UCLA much improved. What does that mean? Chip Kelly's been horrible there, but I have to give him a little bit of slack, because how would you like to recruit to UCLA right now? I mean, they haven't been good in what, 20 years? I mean, it's a horrible place to try to recruit. And so it's really tough there. So I don't know. Hawaii, interestingly enough, appears to be an improving team. They're projected right now for 7 wins this season. And I think that's going to be possible because they have a very interesting schedule. They have 2 games against New Mexico State this year. It's a home and home series because nobody wants to pay for travel to Hawaii, and Hawaii usually pays for travel to Hawaii. But because tourism is down there and they're anticipating that tourism will stay down, they didn't pay for anybody to travel this year. So they have a home and home series with New Mexico State. That's a win and a win. So it's 2 wins there coming up, but they're projected for 7 wins, a much improved team. They think the offense is going to be much better. Fresno State, UConn, I have no problem with that. I think they're going to be geared up, ready to rock and roll. And by the way, San Jose State, just take the over in that game. Okay. Don't play with the spread. Just take the over.
I haven't even seen a spread come out. Maybe it's an added game. It'll come out tomorrow. You can check our social media out.
I saw the spread was like, I don't know, 27 or something. This was on BetQL. That was like a 27 spread or something. And they had the over and under at 56.5, which I think is a gift. Just take the over.
If I can find that on the board anywhere, then I'll figure out how to get the over on that.
56.5.
So Nebraska, Illinois go at 1:00 on Fox, UCLA on ESPN at 3:30, UTEP and New Mexico State at night, Fresno State and Colorado. I think they're during the daytime as well too. And I know our Spartans go at 9:30 Eastern tomorrow night at home at Spartan Stadium. Very interesting to start week 0. We'll get all the college football games and all the machinations that go into it. Let's talk a little college football this week. We've had some interesting developments between the Big 12, the ACC, and the Big 10 in terms of an alliance being formed. Now, maybe I've got this backwards. Maybe your guys at ESPN, I haven't heard very much from the Fox guys on this for my benefit. But UCLA, George Kavilikoff is the new commissioner, by the way. By the way, you still need a TV contract. That's the number one thing that I care about. But the Big 10, the ACC, and the Pac-12 have agreed to form an alliance. But the Pac-12 has said that they are not going to poach. And obviously, you would think that would be the Big 12 teams and the Mountain West teams going at it as far as being poached to make a super conference comparable to what the SEC seems to have lined up now that Oklahoma and Texas have been voted in. They are not going to poach other teams, but they're still going to be part of the alliance. Did I read that right, Charlie?
You read it right, and this is why the Pac-12, the Big 10, and the ACC will always suck and kiss the hind end of the SEC. Okay? You want to compete? Poach. Get out there and play capitalism. You can't compete. An alliance. Did you hear that announcement? When everybody was done, every competent college analyst on every network, not just ESPN. Now, I know ESPN very well because my station that I work for is a ESPN affiliate, but everybody got done. They read through everything after hearing it, and here was the analysis. Duh. Because nobody knows what it meant. I mean, it was the stupidest thing ever. The big announcement. Nobody knows what it means. Okay, and which means they don't know what to do. They are so spun out. They so got caught with their pants down that nobody knows what to do. So this means somebody needs to hire somebody and make them a super commissioner and get them together. And what they need to do is form one giant conference with 3 divisions, add everybody in, and that guy that's in charge of the Big 12. They need to fire that dude right now. Oh, we're not going to add anybody. Fire that guy. He's in la la land. That poor dude, he's had a nervous breakdown and nobody's admitting it. Because, if he's not joining somebody, that conference is just disintegrating. So everybody's got to get together. They got to act like this is a crisis management situation, because it's a crisis management situation. You're muted.
From a college sports situation, it is definitely a situation where they're going to have to figure out how to compete with the SEC. The SEC has the TV contracts with CBS. They have the contract with ESPN. They've got their own network that's ESPN based as well, too. So George Kavilikoff and Jim Phillips and Kevin Warren, all 3 of you better put your heads together and figure out how you're going to do this in terms of being able to compete, whether it's poaching. And Bob Bowlesby, the Big 12 commissioner, former Iowa AD and former Stanford AD out here. He's the commissioner of the Big 12. I know he's not happy with Oklahoma and Texas, but hey, the SEC is doing what they're doing. It's capitalism right now, and they just got to figure out. I don't know where we're going to be in a couple of years. I know in a couple of years I'll be eligible for Social Security. A lot of things will have changed. It'll be interesting, but
that hasn't meant a thing.
Yeah, it hasn't meant a thing. I'll get my $22 a month from Social Security. It'll be college football chaos. Oklahoma and Texas will be in the SEC. Boise State and some of the other teams that they're looking at, BYU may stop going independent in football, and they may end up in a conference as well too. Notre Dame may end up in a conference back in a couple of years. I don't know. Ted Robinson seems to think the best thing for Notre Dame is to be back in the conference. And if anybody knows anything about Notre Dame, it would be Ted Robinson.
I agree with Ted. The best thing for Notre Dame would be into a conference. Notre Dame isn't smart enough to know that they should be in a conference, because they still think that they are the only football program in the world. And I think it's going to take them a decade to get that through their head that they need to be there. And I think the only thing that will get them to the point, Vasu, where they'll understand that is when they lose enough in the playoffs and under this expanded playoff situation, then they'll finally realize they've got to join a conference. But I think they're going to have to lose 4 or 5 times before they realize, hey, we got no choice. We got to join a conference.
All the lines right there on the bottom of the ticker. 5 games going across on the board this weekend, with Nebraska, Illinois being a conference game, UCLA, Hawaii, UTEP, New Mexico State, and Fresno State, Connecticut, and of course San Jose State, the 5th game against Southern Utah. There'll probably be an added game tomorrow on my site as well too. All right, let's talk a little NCAA Power 5 conferences with the season starting tomorrow. I put out a list. I know this is all, like I said, this is all going to change in a few years in terms of the Power 5, and I'll have Social Security. I won't care. Or we'll have made a lot of money. I'll make the money and run for a lot of people out there. One or the other. I'll take all 3. I'm being a little greedy as well. NCAA Power 5 conferences, the ACC. I mean, how can you go against Clemson? But I'm going to, as a byline, as an outlier, I'm going to go with UNC, as well as the best competition for Clemson right there. The Big Ten, Ohio State, still with their situation. Ryan Day has named his quarterback. They're still the best team in the Big Ten. A lot of people are talking other teams in the Big Ten, but as a backup, I'm looking at Penn State. I think Penn State will be right there with them, and it's going to come down to Ohio State and Penn State for the Big Ten championship. In the Big 12, Oklahoma. I mean, Lincoln Riley is pumping out points left and right. Their defense the last few years has been really good. I'm not sleeping on Brock Purdy and Iowa State. They've got a really good coach in Matt Campbell, and I think they can compete. In fact, they had a game against Oklahoma last year where they almost beat them. And I think Brock Purdy and Iowa State, another veteran-laden team, could be a good competition for Oklahoma. The SEC, I mean, it's Alabama. We got to think it's Alabama. Georgia, the closest competition. They've got a quarterback. They've got a pretty good defense. Kirby Smart's a great coach. I can't think of anybody else in the SEC, maybe Florida, that might compete with them. And then the Pac-12, who I see every weekend, the Pac-12, Oregon, even with all the problems that they've got going on, Oregon's still the best team in the Pac-12. Stanford is up there in the north, but I don't think they're as good as USC and UCLA. In fact, I put 2 teams in there as outliers in the Pac-12. USC, and depending on how UCLA gets off to a start, they're going to be a very interesting competition for Oregon. USC and UCLA, of course, they play each other in the Big South. I'm not sure who Oregon plays this year in the Southern Conference. I know they'll have a game off, but Stanford, to me, if you're an underdog by 2.5 points to Kansas State, even though you're in Manhattan, you might not have a very good year. David Shaw looking for a quarterback as he's done for the last few years. I don't know if they've had a quarterback since Andrew Luck at Stanford, for crying out loud, but they've had Christian McCaffrey and they've had other running backs that have come through the program, and their defense is very solid. So Stanford may be an outlier in there, but as far as my takes, UCLA, USC, the outliers next to Oregon in the Power 5 conferences. Charlie, your Power 5 outlook.
Well, okay, it's Ohio State and everybody else in the Big Ten until you prove differently. And look, you and I both have a tie to Ohio State, but I'm not saying that because of a tie to Ohio State from a fan perspective. It's just look at the numbers, look at what's there, look at the recruits, look at everything else. I mean, are you going to tell me Michigan's there? No. Michigan State? No. Okay, Iowa's nice. Indiana had a nice year last year. No. Ohio State until you prove me different. Okay. Clemson in the ACC? Absolutely. Because who else is going to challenge? I mean, North Carolina's got a nice program developing. I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to see they've got a little competition, but it's still Clemson. Alabama, of course. If you put your money on anybody else other than Alabama, and don't put any money down because there's no odds there, but if you think it's anybody else other than Alabama, I'm sorry, you haven't been watching football for the last decade. That's just there. Big 12, I don't care. I really don't. To me, that I'm not betting on that conference now because, first of all, everybody's going to be angry, and an angry conference to me is going to throw all the odds off because I've got to see I'm going to wait halfway through the season before I put any money on any games in that conference because I want to see how teams are going to react to Texas and Oklahoma, and I want to see how Texas and Oklahoma react because there may be a letdown in their heads because it's kind of like, okay, we're out of here anyway.
You think these games will be circled with Texas and Oklahoma by the other Big 12 teams based on the fact that they're leaving the conference and there's a little animosity between everybody there with Texas and Oklahoma?
It's their Super Bowl. Okay.
Totally agree with you.
It's their Super Bowl. I mean, those games are on the bulletin board already in every one of those locker rooms. I can guarantee you. I don't want to use the word bounty because that's about a bad word, but whatever the equivalent is with no money, that's what it is. The Pac-12, yeah, it's Oregon, but USC is improved. I want UCLA to improve. I think it's important for UCLA and the Pac-12 that UCLA is a good team. I'd like to see Stanford bounce back. I'm a West Coast guy. I want Pac-12 football to be relevant. I'm happy to see that Pac-12 football is playing in the East. I'm happy to see that they're playing earlier games so that they're going to get some national opportunities to be seen this year. So I think that's going to be a good thing for them. But I still think it's Oregon's conference to lose at this point.
College football starts tomorrow with Illinois and Nebraska starting it off on Fox. 5 games tomorrow in the NCAA. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes. And then when Labor Day weekend hits, we got all the big matchups already going to go off on Labor Day Saturday and Labor Day Monday night. A lot of good matchups, including Clemson and Alabama and Georgia and all those teams that are going to play. We'll have all that for you next week. All right, let's move on to the NFL here before we get to the baseball after the break. But the NFL, this is the last weekend of preseason, Charlie. The NFL, 4 games tonight on the NFL preseason schedule, the last weekend of preseason. A lot of talk about the wagering in the NFL. I've seen some wagering numbers go up in the NFL preseason. Of course, everybody bets on the NFL. But this is a weekend where I would say watch your money because these are the games where you have the last 10 to 13 spots of your roster that need to be filled out. And a lot of those guys are going to get the looks. So you're not going to get – ordinarily you would get a Kansas City-Minnesota game, which would be – actually, I don't even know if it would be a good regular season game. But Kansas City 4.5 at home against Minnesota 38.5 Indianapolis still waiting on Carson Wentz on opening weekend, which is 2 weeks from this weekend, by the way. At Detroit, 33.5, Jared Goff, the quarterback there. The Jets are a 6-point favorite at Philadelphia, 34. Zach Wilson has impressed. Their defense has been very good. Philadelphia is still unsure about their quarterback situation, I think, but it looks like it's going to be Jalen Hurts, that quarterback. And then Carolina, who I think is going to be pretty good this year. I don't know if they'll be able to overtake Tampa Bay, and New Orleans is still debating their quarterback. New Orleans just named Jameis Winston their starter to open the year. They're a 3-point favorite against Pittsburgh. So here's how I look at preseason football, Charlie. I look at these teams historically and see, is this a good matchup in the regular season? And if you can figure out who's going to play or not play, that's where I'd throw money out on there. Now, I'm not going to throw a lot of money out. In fact, I've only taken one preseason game this year, and that was the Miami Dolphins last weekend against the Atlanta Falcons. And Atlanta, we know, is terrible. It was a 5-point favorite, and they blew them out by 21. So that's the only game that I threw out this year in the preseason as far as a picks on the show and actual money that I put out there. How do you look at preseason football from the standpoint of team building to the season, which is going to have a 2-week break now until September 9th, to the wagering aspect of it?
Well, I played a little preseason game week 1, week 2, just for fun. Ironically, I won all of them. I don't know how, to be honest with you. And it was very small units, by the way. It was just for kicks and giggles. I am off the board in week 3. And the reason for that is just what you said. You've got guys that are battling for positions, and we don't know who's going to play. We know we're going to see everybody. Joe Burrows is going to play for Cincinnati. He's been lobbying to get in and see a little action, but we think it's going to be one series, maybe 2. So that's not going to make a huge bit difference in that game. So we don't know where these coaches are and what they're going to do. And just what you said, there are guys battling for positions that they're going to want to see a lot of, and we don't necessarily know who those guys are because insiders, quote unquote, will tell you that, this guy's fighting for position. This guy's for position. Well, let me tell you about insiders. Insiders are guys who go to practices every day and stand on the sidelines and then have coaches come over and give them information. Now, I don't want to denigrate reporters because I've been there. I've been a guy standing on the sidelines, sweating all day, waiting for the coach to come tell you. But we don't get inside the coaches' rooms to really hear, hey, this guy's on the fence. Okay. And they're not going to tell you this guy's on the fence. So we don't know who those guys are going to be. So that's why I'm off the board, because I don't know who's playing in these games this week. This is a week to enjoy. I'll tell you what, this is an important week if you're a fantasy football player, because you're going to start to see who maybe some of these guys are that are going to be around. This is a hard week to predict because of all those situations.
It's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, fantasy football, we'll get into that next week as well, too. Also get into daily sports fantasy as far as football goes. Thanks to Neil and Robbie on Facebook for checking us out as well. All right, we got 5 games. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5 games. Looking at these games, anything of interest, not from a wagering perspective, but what are you looking at from these games from a standpoint of who needs to do what for you to kind of be convinced or non-convinced of these teams? Indianapolis, to me, is a big story. Detroit, Jared Goff coming in, the Dan Campbell situation there. Zach Wilson's looked pretty good. I like Zach Wilson. I think he's going to have a really good year for the Jets. I don't know the rest of the team, how they're going to do. Philadelphia will be interesting in the NFC East because of how bad it was last year. Carolina, I've already said, I've been on record as saying for the last 3 weeks and ever since last year that I think they're going to have a good year. And Sam Darnold getting out of New York is going to be beneficial for him. Pittsburgh, they seem like they're going to have a running game. Kansas City, we know Kansas City, defensively, I'm a little worried about Kansas City defensively, and their offensive line has got to do a better job than they did last year based on the Super Bowl and last year of Mahomes, protecting Mahomes. And Minnesota, spontaneous combustion. We've talked about them already. Kirk Cousins, who knows what's going to happen with him if he's still anti-vax, and the NFL has a rule about anti-vax. But that's another story for another day. We have our opinions on that. But Minnesota, spontaneous combustion. Green Bay, on Saturday we've got NFL games. Buffalo, Green Bay, 9.5 for Green Bay. 36.5, Baltimore 3.5. Why would you lay 10 points in a preseason game, first of all? Baltimore 3.5 at Washington, 32.5 the total. Lamar Jackson will not play this weekend. Washington's still deciding who's going to be their quarterback between Fitzpatrick and Heineke. Heineke played well last week. Chicago had a bad game against Trubisky in Buffalo last week. They're going to Tennessee at Ryan Tannehill on the COVID list, so I'm not sure about his status. Tampa Bay at Houston, New Orleans, Arizona, Jameis Winston, the starting quarterback there. Denver has looked really good in the preseason, and they named Teddy Bridgewater their starting quarterback. The Rams seem to be all good. Now they traded for Sony Michel at running back. That might be a good fantasy pick as well, 233.5. In Seattle, 5.5 versus the Chargers at home, 35.5. Probably no Justin Herbert this weekend either for the Chargers. Charlie.
I'm interested in that Colts-Lions game just because I'm watching the Lions closely to see what's happening there. I want to see. I'm not worried about golf. I'm worried about that head coach. I want to see what he's doing. He may be perfectly fine. This may be a verbose veneer that he's putting on out there to throw us all off. But I want to see what he's doing. Jets, yeah, you're right. I like Zach Wilson. I'm excited about him, and I'll tell you, the people in New York are excited. Now, Jets fans are always excited, but I think they've got legitimate.
They're excited on draft day. That says everything about the Jets.
I think they've got legitimate reasons. Steelers, Panthers. Yeah, I think it's a good thing to watch the quarterbacks there. I don't know whether Ben's going to play at all, but this is the Ben Swan song, so it'll be interesting to see whether the Steelers can kind of suck it up and make something happen with that. The Vikings,
yeah,
that's a non-story. The Cardinals, I'm really interested in trying to figure the Cardinals out because literally every expert has ridden the Cardinals off. I mean, have you noticed that? Everybody is writing the Cardinals.
I've kind of written them off a little bit because I don't think their defense is very good. They don't have a tight end. They've got receivers, and Kyler Murray hasn't done anything. And it's not him. I mean, the receivers, he's got receivers now, but that's a tough division. And I don't think they compete with the other three teams yet.
Well, I certainly don't think they're going to win that division. But it's interesting because they seem to think that that they're not just standing pat, that they're not going to progress, but they think this whole team is regressing. I mean, they're talking about Kingsbury being fired. So I'm going, wow, what did they do? So I'm keeping an eye on that just because this was a team that everybody was talking about up and coming, going to do anything, and all of a sudden hey, that coach is gonna get fired. I want to figure out what's going on there. So that because that's a team that we kind of were always watching for, particularly over under points and that kind of stuff. So I want to see what's happening there. Let me see. Anything else that I'm really watching?
I'm interested to see what Denver does because Denver seems like they're up and coming in the West. I know it's Kansas City's division a little bit. Teddy Bridgewater named the quarterback. They've got a running game. Their defense, it looks like Von Miller's coming back a little bit. The Rams, they're not going to play anybody. Their defense, they've got one of the better defenses in the league. And then Seattle, what is Seattle going to do going into the year in terms of Russell Wilson? They going to let him go at it? I'm not sure what their running game's going to be. They really got to shore up that defense. I don't know if Pete Carroll has in mind for some of these last 10 spots, some of these defensive guys to replace some of the veteran guys that have been their staple from their Super Bowl years. But we're talking like 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago now from Seattle's great heyday days. And obviously no Aaron Rodgers this weekend, no Jordan Love this weekend either for Green Bay. So it's going to be an interesting NFC North if the Bears come out and play well. They've got the Rams to open up, and Andy Dalton's going to start that game. A lot of coaches have already made their names in terms of starting quarterbacks. Like I said, Jameis Winston, one of them as well. Drew Lock is going to sit on the bench behind Bridgewater as well, too. All right, Sunday games, Jacksonville at Dallas, Cincinnati, Miami. It's a preseason game, everybody here that lives in the Bay Area where we live, San Francisco and Las Vegas, but it certainly doesn't seem like that. 3.5 for the Niners, 35.5. Lance's look good. They're trying to find their last 10 spots. I heard John Lynch on the radio this morning talk about what they're looking at in terms of the last 10 to 15 spots. New England and the Giants, that's going to be an interesting game because Mac Jones is going to get a lot of play time there, at least for the first quarter. Joe Judge is a former Belichick disciple. He was their defensive back coach or special teams coach. I forget. So I don't know what kind of defense they're going to throw at young Mac Jones. But New England and the Giants obviously have a history with the Super Bowls and even some of the regular season games. And, of course, coaches going back and forth. And then there are those Atlanta Falcons, 36 the total, 5.5 on the road for the Cleveland Browns. And they're not even going to play Baker Mayfield or Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt or Beckham or who's the other kid from LSU that they have there? That's their wide receiver.
Yeah, him.
Huh?
Yeah, him.
Yeah. Anyway, they're not going to play anybody, but they're still 5.5 on the road. Jarvis Landry. I can't believe that didn't come straight to my head. Jarvis Landry and Beckham. They've got good offensive play. A lot of talk about the Browns this year going into the season as well, too. So anything on Sunday, and what are you looking for out of these games on Sunday, Charlie?
Well, because we're here locally, I always watch the Raiders 49ers. And one of the things, Vasu, I'm going to watch again this year is I'm still waiting for John Gruden to prove to me that he's worth the money he got. You know, the quarterback whisperer, the great return, everything else. And frankly, his return has been a bust. It has been an embarrassing bust. And if he doesn't do something with his team this season, he needs to resign and go back to the TV booth. I'm serious. I like John Gruden. I liked him as a coach when he was at Oakland the first time. I liked him in Tampa Bay, but he's embarrassing himself right now. He is, you know, it's a joke what they're doing. The only thing that's good about the Raiders right now is the move to Las Vegas and the Death Star. That's the only thing that's good about them, right? By the way, folks, if you don't know about the Death Star, that's what they call the stadium in Las Vegas. It's which is awesome. I can't wait to go there. But they need to do something there because that team is a joke. I'm going to be interested to see Joe Burrow, see how he plays this week. I am interested to watch that Patriots Giants game just because Mac Jones. I'm interested to see what he's going to do. You know, we do have. You know, we all have a quarterback controversy there. I don't know that Bill Belichick has a quarterback controversy. And if you can figure out what Bill Belichick is thinking, I want you to come see me because you're going to help me with my stock picks.
We're going to Vegas. We're going to Vegas and pick games. Absolutely. Exactly. No doubt about it. All right. Phil sends us a comment. Phil Joyner sends us a comment about Dak Prescott. You think they're underplaying? I think Dak Prescott will be there week one. They don't want to get him injured. They got bigger problems on defense, Phil. The Cowboys are going to have bigger problems on defense. They're trying to improve it right now. Mike McCarthy, the head coach, who looks like he's a good offensive coach, and it seems like they're going to let Ezekiel Elliott run the ball a little bit more this year as well, too. All right, that touches all of football for the weekend. College football starts tomorrow. NFL preseason wraps up. 2 weeks to go for the NFL as well. We're here every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. You see the times there, Facebook and YouTube Live. Thanks to Robbie and Neil and Phil on Facebook with us. You can download, subscribe, rate, and review anywhere you get your podcast. Pass it along to everybody. We're sponsored by Britannia Arms of Cupertino, Silicon Valley's oldest British restaurant and pub since 1981. BritanniaArmsDienza.com, 408-257-7262. And don't forget, we're not going to have picks on the show. There's no games till 7 o'clock Eastern tonight. We're going to have all the latest updates and all the picks for this weekend and for tonight's baseball and college football and NFL if we have any, by 6 o'clock Eastern on all our social media pages. You can email us. You can get in contact with us on social media. Let us know what you think, who your team is, or any other questions you have as we get going into football season. All right, in 30 seconds, what a week it's been for baseball. 5 weeks left in the regular season for the MLB. Division races still tight in most of them. The wild card really tight now. And we'll talk about all that and more. This is the Make the Money and Run podcast, sponsored by Britannia Arms of Cupertino. Back in 30 seconds with all the baseball. And welcome back to the Make the Money and Run podcast for August 27th, 2021. Vasi Vadaparty, Charlie O here on a Friday, a week in review of baseball, as well as what's upcoming. The next 5 weeks are going to be very critical for baseball in the next 5 weeks in terms of how the standings shape out, how the wild card shapes out as well. We're here every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. We're sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino. BritanniaArmsDeAnza.com, 408-257-7262. NFL college football every Saturday and Sunday there as well. All right, let's start out Major League Baseball. First of all, here's the week in review right here. In the American League, Tampa Bay goes into Philadelphia and sweeps Philadelphia with 2 games, which I was going to start off this way. I'm going Bryce Harper, Andrew McCutchen, JT Realmuto, Zach Wheeler, Didi Gregorius, and Tampa Bay. I guess Randy Arozarena from last year as far as name recognition, but now and Wander Franco because he was the number 1 prospect in baseball. A lot of no names on the Tampa Bay Rays. They've got the best record in baseball, Charlie. They took care of Philadelphia. I had that game on Tuesday night against Zach Wheeler, a big underdog, 140 underdog, and I took Tampa Bay, and it looked a little shaky. By the way, that was the last game Rhys Hoskins played, and now all of a sudden he's out for the year. Rhys Hoskins hit a game-tying home run. We'll get to the National League in a second, but Tampa Bay right there leading the way, 4 games up on the Yankees. Seattle and Kansas City. Let me find the American League notes here as I have. There we go. That's the right one. Best record in the American League, 4 up on the Yankees. Straight, 8 up on Boston. Chicago, 7 up on Cleveland. In the Central, Houston, 6 up on Oakland. 7 up on Seattle, who won't go away. The wild card is shaping up to be good. New York, 4 up on Boston. Looks like they'll get in. Boston's only up 2 on Oakland. Seattle only 3. Toronto's still there, even though they're out of the AL East. 4 back, and then Cleveland has gone 7-3 in their last 10. They're only 6 back, and all of a sudden they put themselves back into the mix. They're only 7 games back of the White Sox in the loss column. Forget the games behind column. They have games to make up. They're only 7 back of the White Sox, who are kind of iffy the last couple of weeks right now. So let's talk about the American League. Charlie, start off where you want with that.
Well, Tampa Bay, again, we keep telling you, I know it's hard for everybody to keep up with them because nobody follows them in the national press. But just keep your eye on them because they are a great team. Nobody knows who they are. You need to follow them a little bit because they're a great team to wager on. They play great baseball, and there's money to be made with them. So just follow them. Stay there with them. They're going to be in the playoffs. Could they win the World Series? You're darn right they could win the World Series. That's that's a team to follow. The Yankees, an amazing comeback. They made some trade deadline deals that have just been a thing of beauty. I mean, Joey Gallo last night put it to the A's.
Again,
yeah. And it was that trade is just paying off in a beautiful thing. Boston, I they may make the wild card, but I'm still not convinced with them.
It'll be interesting to see the wild card race. Go ahead, Charlie.
I'm sorry. I a little tickle. I'd like to be, but you know what? You talked about the White Sox. Let me talk about the White Sox. We talked about the White Sox with that big lead and the fact that mentally there's always that threat of a letdown. And right now we're kind of seeing maybe that letdown. They're 5-5 in their last 10. But I think they're suffering a little bit from that. Now, I think La Russa is going to kick some rear and take some names on that because he knows how to do that. But I think that's part of what's letting Cleveland back into it is I think they're suffering a little bit of a letdown having had that big lead. I don't think they're going to surrender it, but Cleveland playing well and a bit of a letdown in the White Sox attitude is creating a situation there that I think you and I predicted when that big lead was there.
It's going to be an interesting American League Central. The East, the Rays at 79 wins, the Yankees 75, 73 for Boston, 74 for the White Sox, 75 for Houston, and Oakland 70 in terms of win totals. I'm very interested to see what's going on in the American League here because the wild card race is still up for grabs now. They've still got the Red Sox and A's, Seattle, Toronto, and Cleveland still in the mix as well. Houston 6 up now in the loss column on the A's, who lost to the Yankees last night, 12 in a row for the New York Yankees. When they played earlier in the week against the Braves, it was the first time in 120 years that 2 teams had 9-game winning streaks or better against each other. The Yankees have gone further than that. They swept Atlanta. They had a day off. They came into Oakland and they won on Thursday. Late, they blew a 6-0 lead and ended up winning 7-6 in the end. But right now, they're going strong, and you do not want to mess with the New York Yankees right now as well. One of the other things in the American League that I'm interested in is the White Sox and Indians, because right now they still play each other a few more times. I think they still play each other 6 more times. And then how about the American League West? The Houston Astros just seem to keep doing it. They're the best defensive team in baseball, by the way. Nobody talks about them. They're better. Excuse me. They're better than every other team defensively. And we all know about the Bats. They had some games against the Royals that they swept the Royals. They got Texas this weekend. The A's have the Yankees. Seattle lost to Kansas City. They blew a 4-1 lead to Kansas City. By the way, shout out Salvador Perez. 35 home runs, 2 grand slams this week for the Kansas City catcher. Carlton Fisk has the record for most home runs by a catcher at 37. He'll go by that, and he's hitting nearly 300. So it's not just low average and high power. It's everything. And by the way, he's very good defensively and throwing runners out as well. One other note from Tampa Bay that I wanted to throw out. Wander Franco, the number 1 prospect in the Rays organization. All their prospects are number 1 prospects, by the way, the way they collect assets. He has reached base in 26 straight games. And that, for an under 21-year-old, that is below Ken Griffey Jr., actually past Ken Griffey Jr., tied Al Kaline. Al Kaline did it twice, 26 and 27. Mickey Mantle did it twice, 28 and 36 times. So Mantle, Kaline, Griffey, and Wander Franco's on that list, Charlie.
Wow. That's a pretty good names to be have your name on that list with. By the way, I wanted to mention something with the Yankees. The last time the Yankees won 12 in a row, that would be 1960 and or 61. 1960, right. And it was Maris and Mantle battling for the home run title that year. And so that's a while ago. so their timing is excellent. So the comeback there is pretty good. You know, I'm watching Oakland, and it's pretty amazing. You know, their starting pitching is so thin, and we thought the loss of Bassett was going to be pretty devastating, and we're already seeing the devastation of that. So they're now what?
6 games back in the loss column.
Yeah, 6 games back in the loss column of the Yankees, 2 back of Boston. So that's a slip that they can't let happen long. And I don't know what they're going to do there, because I don't think they've. I mean, you know, like for instance, Sean Manaea is going tonight. You know, and I mean, you talk about the picture of inconsistency.
Yeah, he's been okay.
You know,
but Garrett Cole's going on the other side.
Exactly. So you know, there's not. A's fans, I'm sorry. I'd love to give you some good news. And anybody who knows me knows that when I take this hat off and I become fan, there's an A's hat that goes on my head, but it's not looking good there.
All right. The wild card situation, Seattle not going away. We're still surprised that Seattle's in there, but you know what? They're pretty good. They did blow that lead last night to Kansas City. They've got 3 more with Kansas City. The A's have 3 more with the Yankees and Houston, starting a 3-game series with the Texas Rangers. The White Sox are in. Where are they? They've got I forgot who they had. They've got somebody. I thought I put it up here. Tampa Bay swept Philadelphia. Oh yeah, here it is. I'm sorry. Yeah, the White Sox are still not up there. Oh well. Anyway, they're playing somebody this weekend. We know that.
The Cubs are on.
They've got the Cubs. They're on the interleague. Yeah, they're on the interleague schedule. All right, let's hit the American League games real quick here. Tampa Bay at Baltimore, Boston at Cleveland. That's turned out to be a pretty good matchup now based on where Cleveland's coming back from. Toronto at Detroit. Toronto in the wild card mix. They're out of the AL East spot. Texas and Houston. Texas hosting Houston with Odorizzi. Otto making his major league debut. We talked about New York at Oakland with Garrett Cole and Sean Manaea. Tonight, 150 on the road. And I can't remember when the A's have been a $1.40 underdog or higher at home in a while, at least in the good years. And then Seattle, who lost yesterday, they've got Logan Gilbert, who's been very good for them against Chris Bubich, who nearly no-hit the Cubs last weekend. 172 and 8th the total. Kansas City scares me. Their bullpen has been really good. Their bullpen in the last since the All-Star break is a 2.52 ERA, and this has got to be a series for Seattle to take advantage of, even though Kansas City's been pitching well. But right now, you got to think that the A's and Yankees, the Mariners, the Houston Astros scenario, and also the wild card situation with Boston and New York and Seattle and Toronto are there. What are the games you're looking at as far as the weekend goes, Charlie?
Well, I'm A's Yankees. I'm watching closely because that's important series for both of them for different reasons, and so I'm watching that one. That will be interesting. I am watching the Mariners closely. I think that from an entertainment standpoint, also because Kansas City is playing so well, that will have entertainment value as well. I'm keeping my eye on the Dodgers, just because we've been told watch the Dodgers, and I keep watching the Dodgers because the Dodgers keep coming. And I'm watching San Francisco on an ongoing basis just because I want to see what San Francisco does. That situation right there is one there in the West that I'm not going to take my eye off of because of what's going there. And by the way, if you notice that I'm not talking about San Diego, just like my partner said, San Diego is now what we call not relevant.
We'll get to the National League in a second, but here's the American League. Here's the American League games that we've got. Tampa Bay, we talked about. They've got Baltimore this weekend. Yankees, A's, Seattle, Kansas City, Toronto, Detroit, Cleveland, Boston, Houston, Texas as well. All right, National League.
Houston, just because I got to keep my eye on Houston too, because of the Houston Athletics situation there too. I mean, almost at this point, Vasu, because of what's happening in the wild card, the A's almost have to gain some ground on Houston and start thinking about, hey, can we win the division? And I don't think they can.
Absolutely. The Yankees on fire right now, the American League situation. By the way, with all the division leaders, we failed to mention, I think we mentioned it before, the records of the division winners also count as far as home field advantage goes. And it's very close with the Rays and the White Sox and the Houston Astros. But don't forget about the Yankees. Don't forget about the Red Sox and the A's in terms of home field. And those are big in terms of wild cards and division races as well. All right, Vasuvada Party, Charlie O here. Make the Money and Run podcast, sponsored by Britannia Arms. Let's move on to the National League. San Francisco's got a big series in Atlanta. They just got off sweeping the Mets. These last three games, they were all close games. The Mets have faded. We'll talk about them in a second. But San Francisco, Atlanta going in, Max Fried and Kevin Gausman tonight. The Giants have a 3-game lead on the Dodgers. Dodgers fans are like, the Giants never lose. And the Giants fans are like, the Dodgers never lose. And that's the way it's been going right now for both teams. The Dodgers have Colorado at home this weekend, so that doesn't bode well. The Atlanta Braves have been tough. They've overtaken a sub-500 record to the point of where they are. They are 6 up, I believe I saw. 6 up on Philadelphia and 8 up on the Mets, who have faded. By the way, the Mets a month ago when Jacob deGrom was pitching, they were up 5 in the National League East, and now they're down 8 in the National League East. And as far as the wild card goes, I think they're further out than that. They're 7 back in the wild card of Cincinnati, who's overtaken the wild card. Cincinnati just swept Miami last weekend at home. They've got Miami this weekend. Milwaukee leads the NL Central with 78 wins. Nobody talking about them. They're 7-3 over their last 10. They are going to Minnesota to play their rivalry series in interleague play. St. Louis had a 7-1 lead last night. We keep talking about the Cardinals, Charlie. They had a 7-1 lead last night, and the Pirates ended up coming back and beating them 11-7. And a lot of that had to do with the bullpen. The Pirates get the victory at home. They are coming in 3 back, but they could have been a lot closer to challenging San Diego. They could have been 1 back of San Diego. They're 1 back of San Diego right now and 3 back of Cincinnati for the wild card. Philadelphia is hosting Arizona. They lost to the Diamondbacks yesterday, had a chance to make up some ground on Atlanta, who was off. The Mets in Washington, the Mets, we said that's a 13-game swing that they've had from leading 5 to 8 back in the wild card. And then San Diego, the Padres, 16 back in the National League West, 2 back in the wild card. They're going to Anaheim this weekend, Saturday night on FS1 for those that are interested. Padres didn't do anything against the Dodgers. They hit 0-90 against the Dodgers in that 3-game sweep by LA, Charlie. So National League thoughts right now before we get to the games.
It's crazy. First of all, I'm really angry with the Dodgers and the Padres because they made me stay up until 1:00 in the morning in that stupid game.
Me too, but at least the Dodgers won, so it made it a little easier.
Well, I didn't care one way or the other. So I was just
Dodgers fan and money on the Dodgers. Blake Snell.
You're starting a runner on second base. Somebody score.
I know. Blake Snell had one of his better games of the year on Wednesday night. Another Dodgers catcher got to him. Will Smith tied the game up, and then nobody could score in the extra innings until A.J. Pollock broke the tie. What a good defensive series it was by both teams as well, too. But the Dodgers-Giants, right now, Dodgers 9-1. They've only picked up one game in the last 10 games on the Giants. Giants in the division, Dodgers in the division. Dodgers are 10 up, I believe, if I saw. They're 12 up on Cincinnati and 14 up on San Diego in terms of the loss column for the wild card. I got to think that they're going to have the home game right there. Let me ask you this question here as we get to the Make the Money and Run podcast and the National League games here in a second. If the Dodgers somehow don't win the division, and there's a good chance they won't, the Giants are really good. It's only 3 back, so don't get your high horse up, Giants fans. Yet I am rooting for the Giants. If the Dodgers can't make it, then I will root for the Giants in there. But if they don't make the division, and they look like they're going to have the home wild card game, who would Charlie O start between Walker Buehler, Max Scherzer, Julio Urias, and Clayton Kershaw in a one-game winner-take-all wild card game, either against Cincinnati, San Diego, St. Louis? I guess I'll include Philadelphia and New York in that wild card scenario.
Scherzer.
Really? Okay. I agree with that. I think Max Scherzer would be the guy to go to in a one-game scenario.
I love Buehler and I love Kershaw, but right now, I go with the hot hand, and right now, how do you not? That's why you traded for the guy. I think I not only with his skills, but I think he'll take you deep. If you get in, then you've got Buehler and Kershaw to get you through those first 2 games in good shape going into the playoffs. But to make sure that you make the playoffs, I've got to go to Scherzer because there's no tomorrow.
Nationals, Mets, no line on the board yet, I believe. Oh, no, there's a line on the board. We have them right here. My thing's not loading up here. Dodgers are looking at a bullpen game still to be determined. So no line on that game. Check with us at 6 o'clock Eastern in terms of our picks and our weekend preview for everything. Thanks to everybody on Facebook before you hit it. Hey, hi, Lori. Hi, Phil. Hi, everybody on Facebook. We appreciate all the love we're getting. We'll hit the interleague games in a second. But right now, the National League games. Boy, Aaron Nola had a perfect game for 6 innings against the Padres on Saturday. Padres ended up coming back in one of their few games that they came back and won and showed some spunk. They haven't done anything in terms of the post All-Star break. We know how bad they've been. In fact, I have a number here since the All-Star break. The Dodgers since last head-to-head series ended on June 24th, the Dodgers are 35-17, 82 home runs. Their starters ERA 2.56, the best in the NL. The Padres, and yes, they've had injuries, and Darvish is 0-6, and he came off the injured list yesterday and looked okay. 23-27 since June 24th, 61 home runs, and the starters ERA 6.06. Darvish 0-6 in that time since before he went on the injured list. Blake Snell had his best game the other night. They still couldn't get a victory on that as well, too. So, I know I bashed the Padres, but I did not like them from the beginning, and I did not like all the hype that went with them. And you know what? When you hype, and think about it, NFL teams, when you give the hype like you do, it sometimes backfires on you. And right now, that's exactly what happened to the San Diego Padres. Wednesday night, they definitely had more energy than they did the rest of the series because they looked like they had no energy. And I think they look like they're kind of resigned, and they shouldn't be resigned. They're only 2 back of your Cincinnati Reds, Charlie.
Yeah. And you talk about the energy. They really didn't have much energy in that game until it started going. They tied it up and started going to extra innings. I'm going, man, this team looks a little lethargic,
Very.
And I'm going, that's weird. Tatis was what, 0-for-7 coming into that game or something.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have that from your stars. And I don't know. It's an enigma to me at this point. They've got a ton of talent. When we said it last week, when you're this far into the season and you're firing your pitching coach, what you should have done is fire your manager. Okay. I'm serious.
Yeah.
Because it's not, Larry Rothschild.
Yeah. As a world champion.
I mean, this guy knows more about pitching than anybody that I know in the major leagues.
Right. They fired their pitching coach and they haven't hit.
Yeah. I mean, that's as dumb as it gets. I mean, if you needed to make a change, you should have fired your manager.
All right, big series this week. Philadelphia trying to stay in the mix here, not only in the East but also in the wild card. Pittsburgh and St. Louis. St. Louis trying to stay in the wild card race as well too. The Mets still there, boy. That turnaround on the Mets. Rich Hill going tonight. Cincinnati at Miami. They just swept Miami last weekend. Those are the National League games. 2 interleague games of interest. The Milwaukee Brewers are going to Minnesota. Cincinnati is hot right now, but Milwaukee still has a comfortable lead. They're 9 up in the loss column on the Reds, but the Reds have the second wild card spot, 2 up on the Padres. And the crosstown rivalry in Chicago, Dallas Keuchel and the White Sox. This will be a good weekend. We saw what they did in Wrigley Field, I think 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, when they just tore apart the Cubs pitching. Keegan Thompson is going for the Cubs today, and I don't think he's been up with the roster. So 3-3 at 2.42 ERA, but I believe all that's in relief. Dallas Keuchel, the veteran for the White Sox, 8-7, 4.71 ERA. You see another White Sox sweep this weekend, Charlie?
Why not? I mean, Keegan,
after their split against
his work on Saturday Night Live. Oh no, that's Keenan Thompson. Never mind.
Yeah.
Who are these guys?
Right.
I mean, so I mean, yeah, why not? Because this is the White Sox have a chance to get healthy. They need to get healthy. If they blow this opportunity, shame on them.
Correct. They did get a split against Toronto during the week. They kind of set Toronto back in the AL East, but they did get the day game yesterday to split the series, 4-game series with Toronto. They get the Cubs this weekend with that 7-game lead in the loss column on the Indians as well. All right. A lot of things going on in the NCAA, NFL, and Major League Baseball as well, too. One last thing we want to hit. We had a text from our friend Casey Freelove yesterday in terms of college football going to Vegas this weekend. Casey, hi, Casey. Hi, Becky. Miss you on the show. Good to hear from you. You sent us a text. We were on the text thread last night as we close out the show. You got NCAA futures. We gave you what we thought in terms of the Power 5 conferences. Casey's a big Alabama fan. I don't even know why he asked for futures on the NCAA, but we'll appease him for a little bit because he's going to bet on Alabama anyway. Alabama, you said it earlier, plus 225 in terms of winning the national championship. Clemson at plus 400, Georgia, Ohio State at plus 600, Oklahoma plus 700. Everybody else is 1,500 or better, plus 1,500 or worse in terms of NCAA futures right now. So, Casey, there you have it. If you want to throw some bucks on Clemson, Ohio State, my Ohio State Buckeyes may have a shot this year. If something bad happens to Alabama, I can't see anybody else but Alabama winning, Charlie.
Yeah, no, I can't either. If I were going to pick, if I wanted to just, do a little speculative, small unit bets, I might put a little money down on Ohio State. And just because Oklahoma always amazes me, I might throw a little unit down on Oklahoma just because that plus 700 intrigues me.
No doubt about it. All right, check out our social media for later picks. All our picks for Friday and the weekend will be up by 6 o'clock Eastern. Also on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Send us any comments you want to our email address, mtmarpodcast@gmail.com. We also have a Facebook group out for Make the Money and Run, too. Send all your comments there as well, too. Sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino, Silicon Valley's oldest British restaurant and pub since 1981. BritanniaArmsDeanza.com, 408-257-7262. Good time to visit the Britannia Arms of Cupertino for NCAA football and NFL Sunday ticket that will start in 2 weeks. NFL football, they've got all the accoutrements and all the libations you need to take care of that. All right, for the weekend, don't forget we're here every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. You can download and subscribe anywhere you get your podcast as well. All right, he's Charlie O. I'm Vasi Vadaparty, the Friday edition of the Make the Money and Run podcast for August 27th, 2021. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the NCAA. Enjoy the NFL preseason. Enjoy the Major League Baseball as we get down to the nitty-gritty the last 5 weeks. We'll see you on Monday at 3 Eastern for the Make the Money and Run podcast. Have a great weekend, and as always, good luck with your games. Charlie, have a great weekend. We'll see you then.
Thank you. Charlie Watts, RIP.